Meet Ruth. Ruth retired at 64 with $410,000 in the bank. She passed away at 79 with $437,000. For 15 years, Ruth lived a life of extreme caution. She spent 15 winters with a thermostat set to 66 degrees because she was afraid of what a new furnace might cost. She drank store-brand coffee. She drove a 2009 Camry with a check engine light that she treated as a dashboard decoration. And every December, she told her kids not to get her anything for Christmas because she didn't need a thing. When she died, she finished $27,000 ahead of where she started. But here's the kicker. When her family cleaned out her house, they found a printed itinerary in the bottom drawer of her desk. It was for a 9-day trip to Ireland. The cost? $6,200 all in. It was printed years ago, but she never booked it. Here is the part that should bother you. Ruth wasn't confused, she wasn't scammed, and she was never ever broke. Ruth did exactly what the financial industry told her to do for 40 years. And her reward? Dying with the receipt for a life she never actually got to live. If you're watching this, you're probably killing yourself to save money for your golden years. But the uncomfortable truth is, the habits you are building right now might be trapping you in the exact same cycle. Today, we're going to break down why you will almost certainly never spend your retirement savings and what you can do to escape this trap before it's too late. Let's start with some hard data. You might think Ruth is a sad exception, but she's actually the rule. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, retirees who walk into retirement with $500,000 or more only spend down about 11.8% of their nest egg over the next 20 years. Not 11.8% a year, 11.8% total. After 2 decades of skipping vacations and buying cheap coffee, most people die holding nearly 90% of what they retired with. In fact, roughly 1/3 of retirees actually die with more money than they had on the day they stopped working.
Why does this happen? Is it just a generational trait? A Depression-era instinct? Not exactly. To understand the problem, you have to look at the plumbing of modern retirement. Decades ago, folks retired with a pension. A pension is a magic ticket. It's a permission slip. A check shows up on the first of the month every single month, whether you live to be 70 or 105. It doesn't matter what the stock market did in October. You can't spend a pension wrong because there's no giant lump sum of principal for you to accidentally destroy. Your grandfather looked at his monthly check, spent the money, and enjoyed his life. But today, the pension is basically dead. Now we have the 401k. A 401k isn't a permission slip. It's a terrifying pop quiz that you have to take every single morning for 30 years. To spend a 401k lump sum correctly, you need to know 3 impossible things. Exactly what the stock market will return for the rest of your life. Exactly what your future medical costs will be. The exact date you are going to die. We took a highly complex math problem, a job that used to be handled by entire departments of actuaries, and handed it to regular people with 9-to-5 jobs, saying, "Good luck. Don't run out of money or you'll die broke. Oh, and no do-overs." Because we are terrified of failing this test, we go looking for rules. The most famous one is the 4% rule. It says you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio in year 1, adjust for inflation each year, and you'll probably never run out of money. Let's say you have $600,000 saved up. 4% of that is $24,000 a year. Add in Social Security, and you're doing okay. But then you start reading finance blogs at midnight. You see that experts are now arguing that the 4% rule might be outdated. Maybe it should be 4.5%. But wait, Morningstar says it should be 3.3% if the market is rocky. Faced with this uncertainty, what does the average retiree do? They panic, and they pick the lowest possible number. They withdraw 3% or maybe even 2.5% just to be safe. They feel incredibly responsible, but that feeling of safety is costing them a decade of life experiences. And here is the psychological toll. For 40 years, you trained a very specific muscle in your brain. Save more, spend less. Account balance goes up, you did a good job. Account balance goes down, you screwed up. You do that for 40 decades, and it stops being a financial strategy. It becomes a moral framework. Then, on a Friday afternoon, you get a sheet cake and a retirement party. On Monday morning, you are suddenly supposed to use the exact opposite mental muscle at full strength for the rest of your life. You've never practiced spending your principal, so every time you sell stocks to pay for a vacation, it registers in your brain as a failure. Every withdrawal feels like a tiny wound. This is loss aversion at its peak. So you hoard the money. You live on the interest, you live on the dividends, and you lock the principal in a mental drawer marked "Do Not Touch." Now, to be fair to you, there is a very real, very rational fear driving all this hoarding.
According to recent surveys, nearly 70% of Americans say they are more afraid of running out of money than they are of dying. Let that sink in. People are looking at death and poverty and deciding that death is the more manageable outcome. Why? Because of the ghost of long-term care. A private nursing home room in the United States costs well over $100,000 a year. Assisted living isn't far behind, and Medicare does not cover it. Medicare covers basically none of long-term care, and it also misses your teeth, your eyes, and your ears. And you can't even reliably insure against it anymore. 20 years ago, hundreds of companies sold long-term care insurance. Today, barely a handful do, and they are incredibly expensive, with sky-high premiums that they can raise at any time. So, when retirees hoard $500,000, they aren't being greedy, and they aren't being foolish. They are self-insuring against a broken healthcare system. They are terrified of being a burden to their children. But here's the flaw in that logic. Only about 4 to 5% of people end up needing 5 or more years of paid, heavy-duty long-term care. Yet millions of retirees are walling off hundreds of thousands of dollars, completely mortgaging 30 years of healthy retirement just to fund one unlikely catastrophic year at the very end. Let's talk about how retirement actually plays out in the real world. J.P. Morgan tracks real spending across millions of accounts. Do you know what happens as we age? We spend less. Your spending generally falls by more than 30% between the ages of 60 and 85. And this isn't because you suddenly discover financial discipline at age 81. It's because the money stops converting into the same experiences. There is a window in your late 60s where a dollar buys a hiking trip in Utah, a flight to Lisbon, or playing on the floor with your grandkids. By the time you are 85, that exact same dollar buys a stair lift, copays, and comfortable slippers. Those are not the same dollars.
When you withdraw 3% instead of a safe 5% in your early 60s, you aren't just saving money. You're literally rescheduling money away from a version of yourself that can easily carry a suitcase and handing it to a version of yourself that is arguing with a podiatrist. You are robbing your best years to fund your slowest years. And if you never use it, it goes to your kids. But because people are living longer, your kids usually don't inherit that money until they're in their late 50s or 60s. Think about it. That inheritance takes a 15-year journey from a 75-year-old mother who refused to spend it to a 60-year-old son who no longer needs it. He needed that money 30 years ago when he was 30, trying to buy his first house, and his transmission just blew out. So how do we fix this? How do we break the psychological trap and actually enjoy the money we worked our whole lives to save? Here are 3 actionable steps. First, build a guaranteed floor. The best annuity on the market is delaying Social Security.
Every year you wait past your full retirement age, your check goes up permanently by about 8%. If you spend down some of your savings from age 65 to 70 just so you can delay taking Social Security, you aren't depleting your wealth. You're converting your savings into a permanent, inflation-adjusted paycheck. Once your guaranteed monthly check covers your basic survival needs, food, shelter, utilities, your 401k stops being your survival fund and it finally becomes your fun money. Second, give with a warm hand, not a cold one. If you are planning to leave money to your kids, don't wait until you die. Give some of it to them while you're still alive to watch it land. $20,000 is a nice bonus to a 60-year-old, but it is an absolute life-changing miracle to a 30-year-old trying to start a family. You are allowed to be in the room to see the joy your money brings. Third, change the question. You have spent your entire life asking, "Can I afford to spend this money?" It's time to start asking the other question, the one that Ruth never asked. What is it costing me not to spend this money? Your money is just a tool. It has no value sitting as a digital number on a screen. Its only purpose is to be converted into a life well lived. Don't leave your itinerary in the bottom drawer. Book the flight. Thank you so much for watching. If this video made you rethink your retirement strategy, please hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of money. See you in the next one.